Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? I trust that you are still keeping safe and keeping away from Corona, and that Corona is actually keeping away from you as well. Welcome once again to the JBDC's virtual Biz Zone on this date, Tuesday, September 29, 2020. Now, as you know, JBDC has been involved with these sessions since the start of April this year. We have had several sessions dealing with research, sales, the customer journey, marketing, all different areas of business development, so that you can develop your capacity as entrepreneurs and remain able to compete in these very challenging times. Now, this morning we have a gentleman with us. When you say brand, it's like spelling his name. Actually, let me see. Yes, 5 letters, just like his name. If you say brand, you say Mario. If you say marketing, you say Mario. And in the local sphere, if you want someone to teach you about positioning your brand and differentiating and ensuring that your brand is standing up with all the strong ones up there, this is the gentleman to listen to. So this morning, I want to introduce you to Mario Romans. He's going to be talking to us about a play-to-win strategic approach to marketing. And let me tell you a little bit about Mario. He is the CEO of Think Brand Strategy Limited, a strategic brand growth and corporate training consultancy. He's a gifted brand and growth specialist, experiential marketer, sales trainer, facilitator, and consultant to award-winning brands. He has worked with several brands such as Best Dressed Chicken, Virgin Paints, GK Foods and Services, Toyota, Continental Baking, RJR Group, Scotiabank, Mona School of Business and Management, Jamaica Tourist Board, and these are all organizations that we are very well au fait with as it relates to marketing and their brand development within the local sector. Mario has also written and commented on topical marketing and business group issues and has appeared on major Caribbean media, including CN3 TV in Trinidad and Tobago, and he has also lectured applied brand management at the Caribbean Institute of Media and Communications. So you see that he is well positioned to talk to us this morning about a play-to-win strategic approach to marketing. I urge you to listen, take your notes, get your questions ready. If you have questions during the session, please feel free to drop them in the chat, but we will definitely facilitate questions as we go along, as well as at the end of the session. If you know someone who is supposed to be in this session but is not a part of it, we will have the recording available later on our YouTube page. All you have to do on YouTube, search for JBDC Jamaica, click subscribe, and as soon as it's uploaded, you will have access to the session. So tune in your ears, get ready, because this is going to be an exciting session. So participate, drop your questions. Let's go. Over to you, Mario.
Thank you, Sansia.
All right, thanks. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. This morning, I would want to just talk to you in a kind of a very engaging way about a play-to-win approach to strategic marketing. I want to basically just start by presenting you with an overview of what we'll be doing today. So I will touch briefly on the current situation that is happening in the marketplace globally, and to an extent, Jamaica. I will look definitely at a play-to-win approach to strategic marketing. And when I talk about a play-to-win approach to strategic marketing, I find that many persons, just go to market and it is not a structured approach. And in fact, it is not one which has in it the necessary elements that a brand would need to win in the marketplace. And so I really want to just focus on a play to win approach, which is a very simple approach. It speaks to where will we play, making the strategic decisions about where will we play and how we are going to compete and win. I will look at the Etenio brand story as an example, and I'm sure most of you would be aware of Etenio. They are one of the brands that I have worked with over the years, and they are doing very, very well. And so I'm going to use them as an example and so on. We will be looking at some questions and answers, and I trust that you will participate as much as possible in terms of the question and answer sessions. So kindly jot the questions down, and at the end of the session, you can ask questions. I will leave with you some final thoughts on how you really, really should go to market in today's marketplace. So, what is my claim to fame, so to speak? And Sansa did touch, on some of that. So I consider myself a brand identity and growth strategist, an experiential marketer, and a transformational sales coach. I've worked with several small type companies, including Herbu, including Lady Shelley. There is Complete Nutrition Care Diet Center, and several other local brands, bigger brands, for example, Best Dress, Jamaica Tourist Board. I started my marketing career at the Jamaica Observer, quite a broad range of experience I got at the Jamaica Observer. And, of course, I've worked with several other companies, ISB Finance, Mona School of Business, Grace, Toyota Jamaica, AB Vision Eye Care Company. They are another medium-sized company that is doing very well also in the marketplace. So basically, that is my claim to fame, so to speak. Now, to move into the first aspect of our presentation, I want to talk a little bit about the current market situation, because I think many times, especially smaller type businesses, I don't know if we really understand how serious a marketplace that we are playing in, how competitive it is, how tough the market is. And, COVID-19 has made it even tougher. So there is great uncertainty in the world at large, and which is one of the reasons why people are just so afraid of making decisions, because they're not sure what steps to take or what path they should actually be moving on. And so most times persons would just not do anything, but now is not the time really to sit back and not do anything, because we're operating in a space that is highly competitive, and if you do nothing, then you are expecting something to happen to you. So either you have to disrupt the market or get disrupted. That's the reality of the market. So we know the impact of COVID-19, you know, what COVID-19 has been doing on businesses and so on. We recognize that there, you know, are heightened economic uncertainty and the possibility of recessions happening, you know, in different markets globally. There is increased market volatility, and Jamaica over the years has demonstrated that, you know, when it comes to things happening globally, you know, Jamaica is one of those countries that easily we feel the economic impact. Deteriorating markets, reduced category growth, and for example, if you look in various product service categories all around, you realize that growth has been reducing and so on. And a big part of that today we recognize is caused from COVID. But also from the fact that there are a lot of players that have come into the market. And so for each brand, the opportunities, you know, for growth has kind of weakened because there are so many, you know, players that are actually in the market. Increased market hostility. It is a dog-eat-dog world. Competition is actually cutthroat. And so one of the things I normally would say, it is only the fittest of the fittest that will survive. There is a bewildering array of brand choices now in the marketplace. People have various options, alternative choices from which to choose. That is a critical concern for persons operating businesses, because we can move from one option, consumers can move from one option to the next. The other challenge is that we have seen a proliferation of similar products and services. And so in terms of what an organization offers, we realize that for many companies, there is not much difference in terms of what it is that they are bringing to market. And it makes it far more difficult for consumers, because sometimes it leads to market confusion. There is the excess capacity in terms of this constant introduction of new products coming into the marketplace. And so again, it becomes very, very difficult for brands to really stand out, to stand apart from the competition in the marketplace. So I would consider today's marketplace a brutal brand world. Because there is not much difference in the marketplace in terms of the products and the services, we find that for many organizations, price has become a key element that they try to use in order to drive purchase decisions. Now, I have said from time to time that price for a number of small organizations is not a sustainable strategy. It is just not a sustainable strategy, because already we have high cost structure. And so the more you would lower your price is the more you would reduce the opportunity for your brand to become profitable. And the more you lower your price, it is the more you will allow consumers to become more price sensitive. That you really don't want. Again, we cannot compete on price. price is like a race to the bottom. And so we're saying to brands today that you need to offer something of significant value for consumers to consider your brand. So more and more consumers today, or more and more businesses today rather, are turning to brands to provide consumers with points of distinction, to provide consumers with differentiation. So differentiation is very, very important whenever we are operating in a very competitive marketplace. We need to offer something different for consumers to consider us. Consumers will not pay more for the same, so to speak. So if we're sitting down here and we're all selling the same thing and we're all saying that we, have what it is that consumers want, consumers are not going to pay more for what it is that we are offering because we are all selling the same thing. Now, when you are able to offer something different, we're sitting at the same place, but we are selling something different, then the consumer, you're able as a brand to charge a premium price. And if you brand something, you want to be able to charge a premium price. Brand allows a business to charge a premium. That is the reason why you really brand something. You don't just brand it because it is the in thing, so to speak. You brand your product. When you brand your product, you're offering something that is meaningful, that is relevant, that is different, and consumers will see it as something of significant value and will want to pay something extra for it. Now, let's look at the play-to-win approach to strategic marketing, and I will talk a little bit about the Etenio brand story. Now, according to Tom Peters is one of the respected management gurus, and according to Tom Peters, he says, in a crowded marketplace, fools will compete on price, and winners will find a way to create lasting value in the minds of consumers. Fools will compete on price, and winners will find a way to create lasting value in the minds of consumers. Bearing in mind that price, if your strategy is focused on price, it is a race to the bottom. And again, for many small businesses, we have a high cost structure and we will not be able to maintain the viability of our businesses if we constantly lower our price, because what will happen is that we'll cut our price and cut ourselves out of the market eventually. It is not a sustainable strategy. And so Tom Peters says, fools will compete on price, but winners will find a way to create lasting value in the minds of consumers. And so the reality is that the marketing battle today, ladies and gentlemen, is a battle of brands. The marketing battle today is a battle of brands, and only the strongest, the fittest, and the most resilient will survive and thrive, which is why we encourage small businesses to build a strong brand at the get-go. Build a strong brand at the get-go. Now, a brand is not the logo. It is a part of the expression of the brand. So a brand is not the logo. A brand is not the various symbols that we create, so to speak, that are aligned to the brand. It is the meaning that is behind the actual symbols and so on that reflect what the brand is or what the brand stands for. So some fundamentals about strategy. Remember, we're talking about here a play-to-win approach to strategic marketing. So a strategy is a clearly articulated and deliberate roadmap about where an organization or a brand intends to invest in order to win. Strategy making is about placing bets and making hard choices. And here is where we find the challenge. Because when you're making choices with regards to strategy, you're making specific choices. And when you make specific choices, it rules out the possibility of you taking on other options. And so that is what people are so afraid of. They prefer to be all things to all people. But the truth of the matter is that in any market, you cannot be all things to all people. You really can't. We don't have that much resources to support all the markets, and you really need to stand for something distinctive in the minds of consumers so that you are considered. So as a player in any market, you really do need to narrow your focus, especially for small businesses. You really need to narrow your focus and concentrate your resources in the areas that you can really, really win in. So sometimes we look over there and we see a particular area and it looks like it is an attractive area. But do you really have the capabilities and the competencies to win in that particular area? You possibly don't. But because other persons are going into that space, you want to also move into that space. And I also want to say, especially in this time when we are told to pivot, be careful how you pivot, because you still must be able to have the capabilities and the assets to win in that particular area. If not, you have to go and build new capabilities and build out new assets, which requires investments. So when you're pivoting, you want to pivot in an area that you already have the assets and the capabilities to win in. So again, we did speak on the fact that small businesses will need to narrow their focus, and this is not just a small business, approach. For any business, you really need to narrow your focus and concentrate your efforts. For example, in the past, Procter & Gamble decided that, they would cut the actual focus of their products and zoom into areas that they can actually win in. And so in the past, Procter & Gamble used to, carry food or engage in the food business, but they have moved out of that business totally and decided that personal care and pharmaceutical are the areas that they can actually win in. And so that's where they have now invested their resources. Those are the areas that they have found that they can actually win in. You can have a detailed plan, and I've seen so many times that people have these, bundles or piles of papers, for a marketing plan, so to speak. But you can have a plan and do not have a strategy. You can have a plan and not have a strategy. And so we're saying here that the critical thing is to create a clear-cut strategy for your business or for your brand. Now, so here are some of the elements. So in order to create a clear-cut strategy for your business or your brand before you even start marketing, because if you start marketing without any kind of a strategy, without an understanding of who you are as a brand and what you stand for in the marketplace and what it is that you are going to be delivering to consumers, all you're doing is making noise. So you're just contributing to noise. You now need to define clearly what it is that you want to stand for in the minds of consumers. You need to own a distinctive place in the minds of consumers. And so when they hear about your brand, just like when they hear about, let's say, Nike, and they think, they need to be thinking performance. So top class performance, Nike is associated with top class performance. So when people hear about Nike, they think top class performance, or they think inspiration. So Nike would encourage persons to go out there and achieve their greatness. Just go out there and do it, so to speak. So you need to occupy a distinctive place in the minds of consumers. So number one, you need to develop the brand's aspirational vision. Now, what exactly is that? So you need to first and foremost determine, what is my brand's reason for existing? What is my brand's reason for being? Why am I here, so to speak? What is the purpose of my brand? We find that today, in today's marketplace, purpose-driven brands are the brands that are actually succeeding, because they are aligning to the aspirations of their target consumers. So, again, brands are strategic assets. So you want to capitalize as much as possible on your brand. Brands are strategic assets, and they are the primary source of creating sustainable competitive advantage. So if you're not building a brand today, if you're not building a strong brand, it makes no sense. You really do need to build a strong brand in order to drive consideration and preference. You need to build a strong brand in order to drive consideration and preference. So you're going to establish a strong and distinctive brand identity, or a brand DNA strategy, so to speak. You need to establish a strong and distinctive brand DNA strategy, or DNA identity. Again, what we know is that the power of a brand resides in the minds of consumers. So it is what consumers think, it is what they feel, it is what they perceive and believe. So I believe that Nike is about top class performance. And so if I want to, as an athlete, achieve top class performance, then I am going to align with the Nike brand or associate with the Nike brand, because that is what they are all about, and so on. Coca-Cola, at their core, they're about happiness and so on. And so, again, and they're about the real thing. So if I'm buying something else other than Coca-Cola, when I'm talking about refreshment, I am not buying the real thing, so to speak. So you need to know, position yourself in the minds of consumers so that you can drive consideration. So what kind of associations, what kind of meanings do I want to endow my brand with so that I can drive purchase and preference? What should I endow the brand with? What kind of meanings do I want to endow the brand with so that consumers will prefer my brand? Remember, differentiation is the key to building a strong brand. Sameness has no value. Differentiation is the key to building a strong brand. Remember, when we build a strong brand, we are able to charge a premium price. And that's what you want. You don't want to be competing on price. You really don't want to be competing on price. So if you're building a strong brand and then you're telling me you're offering the lowest price, unless that is the positioning strategy that you want to occupy in consumers' minds. But if you are building a strong brand, one of the advantages of building a strong brand is that you are able to charge a premium price. Again, differentiation is the key to strong brand. So we're asking, what should the brand stand for in order for it to win with my target customers? In order for my brand to win their hearts and win their minds. So I must be able to, so when we're talking about positioning, we're talking about the mind. We're talking about the mind. How do I stand out in the minds of consumers? How relevant is my brand? Here's a shocking reality, ladies and gentlemen. This is globally. Over 70% of brands would not be missed if they were to become extinct. That's a shocking reality. What that means is that what many of us are doing, or how we choose to compete in the marketplace, it means that we are doing something wrong. If over 70% of brands would not be missed, that is saying only 30% or less than 30% of brands would really be missed. And there are a handful of brands that fall into that kind of a category. So some persons would say, boy, I couldn't live without my Apple computer, or so on, or I could not live without Google, and so on. So you have to know, create a brand so that people cannot live without it. So that is the task for us as business people. Another insight, legendary marketer Jack Trout says that businesses will need to differentiate or they will die. And we know in today's marketplace, ladies and gentlemen, that based on the realities of COVID and the fact that consumer spending power has depleted significantly, we really need to differentiate ourselves as brands in order to be considered, because consumers do not have enough spending power to be splitting their choices in several different directions. So you want to be the brand that is top of mind in consumers' purchase decisions. So let's look at Etenio. So Etenio was a brand that came to us some years ago. They were there, doing their thing, playing like, the regular players, but then they realized that they had a product with a name, but they really did not have a clearly defined brand in the marketplace. Again, you have to define yourself. And it doesn't matter what category you compete in. Even if you're a school, the University of the West Indies have to compete with other universities out there. What place does the University of the West Indies want to occupy in the minds of students considering attending university? So you really do need to distinguish yourself in the minds of consumers. So for Etenio, they decided that the core of their brand would be based on delivering all natural products, but then these would be products that would be fully natural. Because what we find is that there are several products that are making the claim about being natural, but then they are still mixed with other, chemicals that doesn't necessarily meet the requirements or the standards of natural or pure natural. So Etenio says we're about pure nature and we're about advanced science. And the advanced science of the brand says that we want to ensure that even though our products are coming from nature, they are delivering on performance. What the research has shown for many natural-based products is that sometimes it is not delivering the kind of results that those products out there that are mixed with some kind of a chemicals are delivering. And so some consumers over the years have become a little bit, wary of, products that are named natural, because some says it doesn't necessarily deliver on results. Etenio wanted to change that kind of a perspective. And so they focused on developing an offering that focused on being natural, but then delivering on the results. They also set out to define a core set of values that would differentiate their brand in the marketplace. So here are 4 core values: integrity, respect for nature, performance, meaning the efficacy of the product, and the sustainability. So whatever they do, they want to also ensure that their practices are, in keeping with sustaining nature. They also recognize that they needed a personality in order for the brand to be engaging. Most persons don't like to be around people who do not have any kind of a personality. If we look at a brand such as Digicel, when they came into the marketplace, one of the things that caught the attention of persons was the fact that Digicel came to market with a very exciting and energetic personality. And so they were able to connect meaningfully with a large cross-section of consumers, specifically the younger consumers. So they had a personality. So you want, as part of developing a strategic identity, to create, in a sense, what at the core will our brand stand for. Also, you want to develop some core values. What are the 3 to 5 core values? No more than 6. 3 to 5 core values, preferably, that our brand will stand for. And these are the uncompromising values of the brand. So what this is saying is that if our brand was to move to markets globally, this is what our brand will still represent, which is why it is considered the core values of the brand. Now, the brand persona is the aspect of the brand that can actually evolve from time to time. It can actually evolve from time to time. So you really want to infuse your brand with some level of personality so that it is able to engage with persons on an emotional level. We really have to connect emotionally. When I go into the supermarket and I see dozens and dozens and dozens of brands, it is the brand that I'm connected to emotionally that I'm going to pick up. So more than likely, because we have grown up on the Grace brand over the years, we might choose to select the Grace brand. Not necessarily in many cases that it is performing better than the other brands. So we realize that the strongest brands needs to have an emotional component for it to win the hearts and minds of consumers. That is so crucial in today's marketplace. So Etenio says they are intelligent, they are sophisticated, and they are authentic. So they are authentic in terms of the kind of ingredients that they use, authentically natural, and so on. But they are speaking to a more upscale audience, and so they have to resonate with that kind of an audience. And so the persona is designed to fit with that target market. Now, as part of the, remember going back to the brand's aspirational vision. So first and foremost, we are going to create the brand's aspirational vision. So as part of the brand's aspirational vision, we are also going to define the strategic and financial goals and objectives. So what is it that we are going to be trying to achieve over the long run and the short run? So from a big picture strategic perspective, we're going to try to build the strength and the equity of the brand, the strength and the health of the brand. So again, a critical aspect in building the strength and the health of the brand is to build differentiated association. What associations do I want to own in people's minds? Back in the day, Volvo owned the word safety in people's minds. BMW owned the word driving performance, or the phrase driving performance. What phrase or meanings do you want to, or associations do you want to align with your brand? You need to articulate those and consistently communicate that to your target market. So we need to build distinctive associations. So that is a strategic goal. We need to build distinctive associations. You would name the associations that you want to build, and so on. So it could be associations of honesty and integrity in the minds of our target consumers, so to speak. You want to build the perceived quality of the brand. You want to build up, so you want to invest in the brand to build the perceived quality of the brand, or to build the esteem of the brand. Or we would say, from a PR perspective, you want to raise the profile of the brand in the marketplace. So some brands are competing, but we know they do not have the kind of a profile or the esteem. And so they are not able to drive the kind of a financial performance that they want, because what? The brand does not have the kind of a esteem and perceived quality in the minds of consumers. So we need to build that, we need to raise it. And one aspect of doing that is creating differentiation in the minds of consumers by infusing in our brands the distinctive meanings and association that we want our brand to own and occupy. You also need to focus on building, this is another strategic goal, customer loyalty. You want to build customer loyalty as a critical element. You don't want every single day you have to go and search for new customers. That's not what you want. You want customers who are constantly coming back to your brand on a regular basis. Once you have a secure customer base, you have an opportunity to drive sustained growth for the future. That's what you really want. So you want to build the loyalty base of your customers. Again, creating something that is a brand that is distinctive and unique and is special to the consumer will allow those consumers to connect with your brand meaningfully and to become more loyal to your brand. So you want loyal consumers. So that would become a strategic goal. But as marketers, we cannot forget the importance of sales as a critical goal. Sales has to be a critical goal. How do I drive sales? So on. What kind of a sales do I want? In terms of revenues, in terms of volume, and so on. We also have to look at profit margins and so on. What kind of a returns do I want on my investments? Again, your goals and objectives and your strategic objectives also provides you with a clear path to gauge and to track your brand's performance. You cannot measure what you can't manage, what you can't measure. And so you really do need to have these objectives in place so that you can actually track the performance over time. What I see happening, many persons are just merely, especially from a social media standpoint, just merely going on, and from a daily basis, they are posting things and so on. But then, is it really converting or driving performance? Sometimes it is not. We're just there, just posting things. But any activity you engage in from a marketing standpoint must be able to deliver some kind of a return or some kind of an objective. And so you really, really do need to ensure that the objectives are measurable in order for you to strategically manage your brand. Now, a big aspect of this where to play, how to win approach, or a play to win approach to strategic marketing is our where to play decisions. Where will we play? So you want to be able to determine the product service category scope. What product service category will we compete in? What are the categories that we want to compete in? So for example, in a Tenuous case, they wanted to compete in the all-natural personal care category, but they also wanted to create a women's line of product involving skin and hair care, and also they wanted to compete in the men's category as a secondary area, and they also wanted to compete in the children's category as another secondary area because they saw an opportunity here that they can win in. Remember, this is a strategy for you to win. So if you can't win in a particular area, do not enter into that area. You really do not have the resources to be spreading yourself all over the place. So you really have to focus on those areas that you can compete in and that you can win in. Yes, go ahead.
Sandra, I see where you've asked to take a question, so I'm going to unmute your mic and you go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead, Sandra.
Okay, good morning to you.
Morning.
Morning.
Excellent presentation so far.
Thank you.
I'm learning a lot about position and the integrity and all those goals and so on and so forth.
Yes.
I'm a bit concerned. I'm a business owner from 2016,
Yes.
2 businesses.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, it's not going to take me a difficult time to do the marketing and the positioning because I've used a different orientation to start in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have found a niche market.
Yes.
So I already have the aspiration of the heart of
Mm-hmm.
that customer base planned for in the business. I use their hearts to plan the business.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you are an expert in this whole business, and I believe a lot of SMEs
Mm-hmm.
plan the business from their hearts and hope to win a customer, and we hope to win customers.
Yes.
And it's making the marketing cost, the energy, the creativity, which some of them don't have, a lot harder to achieve
Mm-hmm.
because the business is planned from their heart and not the customer's heart. And it took me a few months to get a proper analysis done of the customer
Mm-hmm.
before I went and planned the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like you to, I mean, I'm talking, I'm not using exact words,
Yes.
but for me, I ask them what they want and then I'm giving them what they want.
Yes.
So I believe a whole presentation to help us, because my other business that I didn't start like that,
Mm-hmm.
I am crying and wondering if I must go on many months with that business because
Yes.
I
Yes.
planned it and tried to win the customers. It's a serious
Understand.
issue for me.
It it is. And as you rightly say, no more than ever, we have to place a lot of emphasis on understanding our customers. Many times we are not the customer. And so, we have a passion and so on, but then we also have to ensure that we are at the heart or connecting with the heart of the customer. And so one of the models that I typically use is the customer sweet spot. I call it the customer sweet spot, where I get to understand the consumer on a more deeper and emotional level, because connecting with consumers on an emotional level is what is going to be the differentiator. Because sometimes we do have a product that works. Like I tell persons in the personal care category today, yes, saying that you are all natural and so on, it's almost like it is no longer a differentiator today, because many persons can say that we are all natural and so on. Or saying that our product performs is no longer a differentiator, so to speak. And so you have to look at now, what are the other elements that will allow my brand to connect on a deeper, more meaningful and emotional level. So it is getting to that kind of an understanding where we look at the customer sweet spots. And so elements of this would be the beliefs of people. What are the beliefs? So for example, let's put it this way. So there are persons who are of the Adventist faith, so to speak. So, and typically they are into more natural, healthier way of eating and so on. And so you find that if your product is, more natural and so on, they already have an inclination to buy based on, their overall beliefs and value system, so to speak. So you have to now examine the customer on those deeper levels, their beliefs, their values, their lifestyles, or their aspirations. So it is almost like when we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and those needs are already satisfied, because many products will be able to satisfy those basic needs. You now have to look at the aspirational needs and the what we call the higher order benefit needs. So is this product doing something that is transformational, or does it have a transformational message? Because sometimes it is not even that the product is so different. It is that the story behind it is so different. And so people are buying to this transformational story. So it is the story that I'm able to carve out that supports this brand, that is creating, and people buys the story because the story is very compelling and it is very meaningful to them because it connects deeply with their own beliefs, their value systems, their own lifestyles, and their own aspirations. So I hope I was able to answer to some extent.
Yes, it's just
Your
now for
question.
the technical and
How
administrative
do you
way
actually bring
of
it to
finding
life, so
out
to
their
speak?
hearts.
Yes. So research is going to be a critical thing and so on,
Correct.
but sometimes it is more observations.
That
Sometimes we do
too.
the focus groups and so on because I know there are a number of persons who have become non-believers in focus groups because you can basically say what the person wants you to say, so to speak. But what I know, for example, Procter and Gamble and Unilever, sometimes they have actually gone to live with the consumer, so to speak. I mean, I know they have the funding to do things like that, but they have actually gone to just live with the consumer, let's say for a week, to observe how they operate and how they behave and so on, and to basically create products just by observing, how consumers behave and so on. They watch them in the shopping space, so to speak, and, are able to create products that meets and fits with the, or more in alignment with the values and the beliefs and the lifestyles of these consumers. But once you talk about, once you get an understanding of their beliefs, what are their core beliefs, so to speak. So if I'm of the view that I will not use anything or not wear anything but what is considered best in class, then obviously some of the products that does not fit with that particular requirement, I will just not consider. So you have to get that kind of an understanding, more and more via observation. You may be able to ask some, questions, interview the consumer and so on. But to a great extent, once you are able to observe and so on, and when you do also research, instead of just, creating the questions where it is a yes and no, try to delve a little bit deeper, allow them to share their inner, feelings, so to speak. It provides far more insights than just by, the yes or no type question. Do you like my product? Yes. That kind of a thing.
Dorothy Price Maitland, I notice you also have your hand up. I'm gonna ask you to, oh, you disappeared, okay. All right, you can go ahead, Mr.
All right, so these are just some visuals in terms of, what Etenio has been doing over the years and in recent times. They have launched their men's line this year for Father's Day, and, they've actually sold out. Again, people have come to recognize what the Etenio brand stands for, and so it is a critical element of what helps them to drive purchase. You have to always think of what should I endow my brand with in order to drive purchase. Marketing is 99% about perception. Marketing is 99% about perception. So they've gone into, making soaps and, doing several different things over the year. Identifying and prioritizing the customer market segment. It is so critical that we target precisely and relentlessly. We have to target precisely and relentlessly. Everyone is not a potential customer. Small business people need to understand that everyone is not a potential customer. Everyone will not align with the brand's value proposition. So you've created a value proposition. Everyone will not align with the brand's value proposition. And not all customers are created equal. Not all customers are created equal. And so the charge to businesses today, and I stress today because we're operating in a new climate, a new environment, is to pick markets that matter. Pick markets that matter. Don't try to reach out to everyone. It will not work. It will not work. And the bigger players will tell you the same thing too. They have tried it and they recognize it is not even working for them. So pick markets and customer segments that matter. So you want to be able to identify those demographic and lifestyle customer segments that you can really win with. Are we able to deliver this value proposition to this particular customer? Will our brand be relevant to this target market? Relevance is critically important. Again, you can't be all things to all people. You also need to identify those geographic markets or regions or territories you can source real value from. And so, yes, digital, has opened up significant opportunities, and you want to reach out to the rest of the world, so to speak. But then, does the rest of the world want to do business with you? So you have to now look at those low-hanging fruits, those low-hanging markets, so to speak. So you're a Jamaican brand going overseas. You want to be able to reach out first and foremost probably to your West Indian community or the Caribbean community and so on. You want to also look at those markets that you will find a lot of Caribbean consumers or Jamaican consumers and so on. Then you might be able to, reach out to other sub-segments, so to speak, that might be very well interested in your type of products and services. Very, very important. So in terms of Ateneo has defined their target market segment as primarily females, first and foremost, between the ages of 28 and 54 years, with average to higher incomes. So that's from a demographic perspective. Now, from a standpoint where we're looking to their motivations and the needs and desires of these consumers understand the importance of appearance and personal care. They also have interest in natural, organic, allergen-free and environmentally friendly products. So we have defined clearly and articulated clearly who we are trying to reach out to. So when you're looking at your marketing activities, you realize those are the persons that you really need to zoom in on. Sometimes we are just making this kind of a scattershot approach in terms of our marketing activities and so on. Worse, when we go onto social media, that's where it gets all crazy. When we go onto social media, again, these are customers who chooses the best in terms of efficacy, image, and natural ingredients. So those are critical things for the tenure customer and so on. You also need to determine the channel and go-to-market strategy. How are we going to reach consumers? What is our brand's access point, so to speak? Where can they, find our products? You also need to ensure that your channel and go-to-market strategy is synergistically aligned with the positioning or what the brand stands for. So you can't be talking about you are, an upscale brand, but then we find your, products into some kind of a haberdashery or so on. There is not a clear alignment. So you need to know where you are going to be placing your products in order for your products to be in the face of your target consumers. That's very, very important. How will we compete and win? Again, going back to a statement that was made by Tom Peters. In a crowded marketplace, fools will compete on price, and winners will find a way to create lasting value in the minds of consumers. So if you notice, we have defined the brand identity. The brand identity or the brand vision, what the brand should stand for, that bigger picture of the brand. So we're talking about the brand essence, the core brand values, and the brand personality. Very, very critical elements. That's part of the brand identity. So in the past, we used to say you only need a positioning strategy. We are saying in today's marketplace, you need to also establish a strategic identity for the brand. So two things are necessary for you to compete effectively. You need a strategic identity, and you also need a positioning strategy. How will we compete and win? So you need to establish, first and foremost, a relevant and compelling positioning. What is that unique, single-minded space that I want to occupy? Remember, we talked about Volvo in the past. We should talk about safety, but Volvo now has to add something else to the brand in order for the brand to remain relevant in today's marketplace. And so they have to now improve on the styling and the look and feel of the brand, because they realize that consumers today are asking for the aesthetics and the emotional or the intangible aspects of the brand to speak to them, so to speak. So what distinctive place? And we're talking about your positioning. We're talking about your customer value proposition here. And we are expanding on the concept where it is not just the functional benefit that you want to deliver to consumers. So you must be able to provide the customers with a compelling reason to buy. And your functional benefit typically does that. So we know that the shampoo works. It gets rid of dandruff, so to speak. So it delivers on that. But consumers are saying, we're not just buying that alone in today's marketplace. Which, for example, you look at a brand such as Dove, and remember that Dove campaign for beauty, or where Dove is now saying, we are not just providing you with a reason to buy. So we have given you a compelling reason to buy because our product works and delivers on the result, but we are going to give you a reason to care about our brand. And so Dove says, listen, we are about motivating women. We are about improving the confidence of women because so many women out there, you know, are all about, well, have low self-esteem, so to speak. And Dove says, we want to give you reasons to care about our brand and so on. So we are going to stand with you and support you. And so Dove has created this big campaign over the years, you know, Dove campaign for real beauty. And Dove is saying that beauty, even though we have over the years created standards of beauty, we are now saying to you that today beauty comes in all forms and shapes and sizes. So we have given you a reason to care. And also, we're going to give you reasons to advocate on our brand's behalf. And so, because our brand has a bigger picture than just delivering a functional benefit. Remember, we went back to, at the start, we said, you know, what is the reason for your brand's existence? What is the reason? So a big part of Dove's reason would be that they are there to inspire confidence in women and so on. So that's the bigger picture. It's far more, it's a far more compelling base on which to stand from, so that you can move out of the fray of just saying my brand performs and so on. It creates preference in the minds of consumers. It creates likability, and you have to be able to drive preference in order to drive purchase. Preference to drive purchase. You have to be able to do that. And the reason to advocate on your brand's behalf is so important in today's you know, digital and social engagement era. People like to share things, but they want to be sharing things that are meaningful. They're not just going to be sharing because you're putting out a product and you're promoting it. They want to be sharing something that is meaningful. So you really need to be able to provide your brand with some amount of substance by providing a value proposition or a positioning that not only provides consumers with a reason to buy, but it must give them a reason to care about your brand and also a reason to advocate on your brand's behalf. And so here is what Etenio did. So they have been able to create this bold and distinctive customer value promise. So first and foremost, the functional benefits. Best in class, handcrafted. For some people, I mean, the handcrafted is so important. Best in class, handcrafted, all natural products made from the finest and most potent ingredients. It also delivers nourishment, efficacy, and people will see a kind of a clinical result when they use the product. So that is the promise to consumer. But it doesn't end there. They're saying that they have infused in the brand other benefits. So apart from the functional benefits, emotional and self-expressive benefits. So it is an eco-luxury brand, and who doesn't necessarily like a luxurious brand, so to speak. So it's an eco-luxury beauty and personal care. So luxury, when we think about luxury, we never normally think about eco. This is something coming from the earth. But so it's an eco-luxurious brand. It also delivers some higher order benefits that would enhance the environment. So environmentally friendly products. It protects the environment. For a number of consumers today, that's a big thing. And some consumers will buy just based on the fact that it provides them with that reason to care about your brand. It is also cruelty free. So they are telling you that they do not use animal, based ingredients. Very, very important for some consumers. So again, it is providing more than a functional reason It is delivering intangible benefits also, and transformational benefits. So it helps with the bigger picture of protecting the environment. That's such a powerful message for especially millennials today. Now, implementing a distinctive marketing touchpoint system. So when we talk about your brand touchpoint system, remember we're talking here about how do you compete and win. So how you compete and win, first and foremost, you're now going to establish a positioning strategy or a customer value proposition that is relevant, that is also differentiated. It must be relevant. It must be relevant to the target customer, because if you are a company like Yellow Pages today, you must be worried. So we're talking about relevance. It is very, very important that your offering is relevant to the times and to your target market. So you want to establish first and foremost here relevant and compelling positioning strategy. You want to also implement or be able to execute a marketing touchpoint system that is synergistic. So we're talking about here your marketing operations and your marketing programs. It's part of the marketing touchpoint system or your brand touchpoint system. Your marketing programs, your marketing operations, part of your brand touchpoint system. So advertising may be a critical element for you. Remember, you're going to utilize these tools or touch points that you are able to win with. So if advertising is not going to allow you to win, or advertising is not going to allow you to connect with your target market, then you are not going to use advertising. Not because everybody else is using advertising, or not because everybody else is on social media, you have to jump there. Even though it is a very relevant to the times platform. It is very relevant to the times. And so again, you're trying to create preference and liking for your brand. So it is good to have a presence on social media. However, if your target consumers are not hanging out on social media, it would be better to spend your money where your target market is. PR and publicity. So these are some things that Etenio have used. Their packaging design is very, very important to them. They've selected the white bottles to communicate a message of purity to the target market, because they're selling purity. It's a core message that they're selling. So white bottles communicate that message. So packaging design is also very crucial for them. But also the color green that speaks to the earth and nature and so on also is an element that has distinguished their packaging design and so on. So they have a kind of a visual system that says this is what our brand elements would look like in order to reflect what our brand is. Again, if you look at a brand like Digicel, Digicel is about excitement and fun and so on. The color red speaks to what the brand stands for. So you have to be very careful of what colors you align with your brand, unless the intention is actually to create a kind of a disruptive experience for consumers. So you talk about the fact that we've always seen brown cows and so on, and now you decide, oh, I want to create a purple cow in the marketplace. And we find that a lot of companies, especially small companies who want to play at this or go to market with a more disruptive strategy, have decided that they are going to become the purple cow, so to speak. Sales promotions have been very big for them. They have used a lot of experiential events to engage with their customers on a more meaningful, and please do not forget this word, meaningful, on a more meaningful level. Consumers want brands to engage with them meaningfully. They don't just want a brand that is there that they, you know, you just buy the brand, so to speak, and you leave them all alone. They want the brand to stand with them. So consumers, especially today's consumers, they are called aspirational or transformational consumers. They are on a journey to greatness, so to speak, and they want brands to engage with them and to cheer them on and to encourage them. If you look at Nike, a lot of Nike's message these days is about achieving your greatness. So Nike is always cheering people on and standing with people and you know, and being by their side and so on. Those are the brands that win in today's marketplace. They have created relevance for their target consumers. A big part of Atenio's digital strategy is their brand website and social media. Now, crucially, your marketing budget. You have to determine a budget. And can I say 300,000 is for the year, especially in a marketplace that is extremely competitive, is a waste of time. 300,000 is a waste of time. I know small businesses have it very difficult. That I know. It is difficult. There are days that people, you know, do not make a sale. So I do understand that. Very, very difficult. But I'm also saying to you that 300,000 will not allow you to go anywhere from a marketing standpoint in a marketplace that is extremely competitive and is cutthroat. So you need to have a relevant budget, a budget that will allow you to meet the objectives. So if it is that you want to drive sales and your sales figures are so and so and so on, it means that you have to invest the monies in order for you to drive that kind of a sales. It means that you have to invest in the kind of activities for you and to engage. Don't think also that social media is cheap, because I think a lot of persons are thinking that social media is cheap. If you are doing social media the right way, you have to invest in social media. So you have to determine, how am I going to, what kind of a budget will I invest per month for social media to drive the kind of activation, because likes will not take you to the supermarket. You want real active engagement. And many of us have posted things on social media and all we're getting is likes, and we know that and so on, but we do it anyway and so on. In order to drive real conversion, it means that you will now have to engage with social media to drive conversion, if it is a tool or an element that you see that you can win with. Again, we are talking about winning. So the mindset for today is winning. what can we do in order for us to win in the categories that we have chosen to play in? Again, you can't spread your marketing activities too thinly. So if it is that you can only do 3 elements, invest over the top, invest boldly in those 3 key elements and win with those 3 key elements. So don't take on the scattershot approach. So a little piece here and a little piece there and a little piece there, and it is not working effectively because each of these activities have not been given the kind of a budget that it needs to win. So focus your attention on those key areas that you can win in. So let's say customer service is an area that we can win in. Invest over the top on customer service. Get the best people for your customer service staff because you want to win with customer service. So you have to determine which touch point you can win with. So customer service, if customer service is a key area, if advertising, if our website is the area that we can win with, we're going to invest over the top in those areas that we can win with and not spread our budget too thinly, which in the end would have been a waste of time. So invest some meaningful dollars to your marketing and so on. I don't know if you, I know persons might be wondering, so what kind of a money we'll be talking about and so on. For me, I typically, especially a small business, I would say if you do not have, let's say roughly about $950,000 for the year, between $950,000 to somewhere around about $3.5 million, it is going to be difficult for many businesses to be finding that kind of a money and so on. But we're talking about, say, $950,000 to roughly about $1.75 million. You know, that kind of a spend is something that would get you somewhere to drive the kind of a growth. But again, you know, it depends on what kind of objectives you're trying to achieve.
All right, I wanted to interject, Mario, because I know that our client group, usually, this is not something that kind of expenditure is not something that, I don't know if they're unwilling or it's just not affordable. So let us look at a ballpark figure. Say, for example, a small, one of our clients in particular is willing to expend $150,000 per month on their marketing program.
Mm-hmm.
How would you suggest that funds like that be expended to ensure that they capture something out of their bottom line?
All right. So one of the things I would suggest at the get-go is that you develop, you know, a website that persons are able to easily access some information from you. When we talk about digital marketing tool, there are other tools that are so useful that we have not necessarily capitalized on and so on. Sometimes even just by sending an email, you know, some persons are very, very good at developing those nice little, it could be a newsletter. It could be a sales letter, so to speak, but they are very, very good at writing and they are able to develop those nice and just nicely decorated and so on. You know, that could be so meaningful for someone, you know, if that's an aspect that they want to utilize since the budget is not there. So develop some kind of in today's marketplaces, it's about paid, owned, and earned. When you're thinking about marketing, you're thinking about marketing from a paid, owned, and earned perspective. So we talk about paid. We talk about some amount of those areas that you go to the media house and you buy some ads or whatever, and so on. I always suggest a mix and match approach. So some aspect of traditional media plus digital. I've always suggested that kind of a mix and match approach. I find that our market is still very traditional. And so we find that, let's say for a small business, easily I would say go radio, because radio provides that kind of a top of mind awareness. It is about repetition, and if you are able to, sometimes these media houses have these very, affordable packages, so to speak, that you can utilize. So I would say, maybe you want to run a radio campaign for, let's say, a minimum of 3 weeks, because you want some amount of consistency. So a minimum of 3 weeks to, so you can do it for the shortest possible time, 3 weeks, or you might want to say, oh, let's do a 2 months, campaign on radio and see what kind of a lift will I get from my brand and so on. That is a good approach. I find that radio is very, very important in our space. Again, having a website or establishing a social media page where you can win with, so to speak, and your clients are there or your customers are there. So it could be Facebook. Facebook is a very popular space. You might want to think about Instagram because of the fact that it is very visual, and Jamaicans are very visual set of people. So it's a space that you might want to utilize. Again, know where your customers are hanging out, so to speak, is going to be very crucial.
So I wanted to also ask about some of our clients. The other day, our CEO said that, or Deputy CEO rather said that online is not always the best, because there are businesses that, even though they have to pivot, as it were, in this time, online, based on the product or service that they offer, online may not be a suitable platform for them. How would you suggest that they compete or negotiate now so that they can get the attention that they need as well?
All right, so just from a very, and this one is very personal to me, because with my client base, I do a lot of training. And so my client base, typically company executives and so on, I don't necessarily find that when I, engage them on social media, they readily take up my services. But when I send something off, say, directly, an email directly to, say, the marketing executive in a company, or the human resource manager in a company, or the training officer in a company, I find that the responses are far better. Along with that, I might be able to do, let's say, some radio advertising and so on, which would create some amount of attention and some buzz in the marketplace. But I find that that direct approach is very, very useful. And two, if it is that you are offering that kind of an information product, you might find that if I blog, or so on, or I might do a podcast, so to speak, and I'm talking about a topic, so to speak, it may very well be useful, and so on. So creativity. So the message here is now, how can I become more creative, and so on, in terms of reaching? Public relations is a very critical aspect. Capitalize on where you can get some amount of publicity in, whatever kind of a vehicle that is there out there, so to speak. It could be in the newspaper, it could be on TV, You might want to capitalize on the morning shows or the Saturday shows. Sometimes they themselves are looking for content. And so here's an opportunity for you to maybe call into somebody and say, hey, I have something that I think, you might want to showcase to your viewers and so on. So creativity is the key here. Thinking outside of the box, or sometimes throwing away the box totally, is going to be very, very necessary. So again, you have to know, as a small business, play like a purple cow, or be the purple cow, or be the outlier, so to speak. So you have gone where no one else have gone before. So that is critical. So are there any questions? That's basically it. So are there any questions?
All right, while we wait on the questions, hopefully there will be one or two coming in. This was certainly an informational session. I learned a whole lot. I wrote down some things here but before I get into what I wrote down, you said you can't measure what? You were talking about.
You can't manage what you can't
measure. Right? I mean, manage part. So you can't manage what you can't measure.
Yes.
And that is very important for especially for our small business persons, because budget and resources are an issue. You must be able to identify how each and every dollar has been spent. And so whatever position you put yourself into to promote or to market or to get yourself out there, it must be something that you can say, okay, I spent $200,000, and as a result of this $200,000, I was able to attain 5 customers, and based on the customer life cycle, this is what these 5 customers will be valued to me over the next
so
year.
important, especially for marketing, the function of marketing. We find that more and more, especially if you work in, let's say you work in, or you have persons that you are accountable to, so to speak. What I find is that marketing accountability has become a key element for marketing accountability has become a key element for persons, in the management of brands today. Such a key element. You really, really don't want to be doing things that you are not getting a return from. I have had persons call me to say, we have invested in some young persons, and I thought that they, understand or understood this whole thing of social media, but I realized that we are not getting the kind of returns from our investments. And so I really do need to change, or sometimes they would say, get rid of the person at this point in time who is doing my social media because I'm not getting the kind of returns and so on. Again, we also have to understand some fundamentals of social media. At the heart of social media is social engagement. That's the heart of social media. Now, we would have loved to be able to monetize and so on social media, but bearing in mind, culture again impacts on how people utilize various vehicles. For a lot of Jamaicans, with the exception of a few persons and so on, social media is their place to go and hang out. So they are not necessarily interested in anything that is very serious and whatever and so on. So in terms of real investment and seeing it as a business platform and so on, for them, that's not the case. So we need to recognize the vehicle for what its core is. And so it is a social platform. It is good to build the reputation of your brand or the trust factor of your brand. And it is always, like I said, you want to give persons an opportunity so that when they want to go on or find you, so it is an always on one of those always on vehicles where a consumer would say, wherever, you know, whenever I want to be able to connect with this brand, I can always find this brand. So that's one of the vehicles that is considered an always on vehicle. So you want to be there, establish a presence and so on. But remember, it's more about building the perceived quality of the brand, or building the reputation or the esteem of the brand, as against driving sales and driving meaningful sales. So you will get some sales, but in terms of driving, you know, meaningful transformational sales, I mean, we're not talking about incremental here, transformational sales, you're typically not going to, most businesses will not get that from. So,
the understanding then what it is that you're going to get when you go on social media, which is basically social engagement. You might get, if you get something else, give thanks. But the main thing is to build that awareness, increase that visibility, and so on. All right, I have a question.
But coming to that. So remember, I said, so it is, we have to think paid, owned, and earned. So you have those owned vehicles like your social media platforms and your website and your blog page and so on. Those are your owned vehicles and so on. So you always want to be able to have those up where people can always access you at any point in time, so to speak. Your earned, which is what we are looking for, especially when we go on social media, because we want that kind of an amplification, so to speak, where those persons are able to take our messages to other persons, which is where you get the value from. In many instances, we are not getting that because Jamaicans sometimes don't necessarily like to share things. So again, you have to look at it from a cultural perspective. So we're not necessarily getting that earned media that we are seeking. It's more so from the standpoint that, yes, somebody likes a thing and they like, but sometimes it is liking it and they don't, no, they're not sharing it. Yes.
And from Neveline. So Neveline, I'm going to open your mic.
Okay.
And you go ahead with your question. All right, Neveline, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this presentation. I've learned a lot.
Morning.
Unfortunately, I was out for a bit due to work calls, etc. However, so I'm not sure if what the question I'm going to ask you, if you had responded to it. So this is the question,
no problem.
basically. All right, so it's about budgeting, and in terms of when designing the strategy or considering the paid vehicles for the marketing strategy. I know the all media survey is a good place to start in terms of research. How do you get access? How does one get access to it? And do you know what is the most recent survey out now?
Oh, go again with that question about the all media survey.
All right, so I know the all media survey is a good place to start when considering, for example, where to place your ad. I'm asking, how does one get access to the most current all media survey?
Well, typically what I've found is that I don't know if any is being printed at this point in time. I know the sales reps from some of the media houses would normally have something, you know, that says, okay. But what I find with the all media survey, because I used to work in the media also, so I can tell you that sometimes some of the information, the total information is not necessarily revealed to the customer, so to speak. So just an example, when I work with the Jamaica Observer, we were told never ever to give out, for example, our circulation figures and so on, because if you were comparing yourself with the Gleaner at the time, then the circulation, the Gleaner circulation was always bigger than ours. However, what I normally would do is to approach it from a targeted perspective. And so I would say, okay, depending on who you're looking to target I would say select the Monday paper, which would be the All Woman. So I would say place an ad there, so to speak, because it would be more in alignment with your target market. Again, you have to look at where your listeners are hanging out, so to speak, or where your people are, what are they reading? What are they watching? What are they listening to? And so sometimes, even though the all media survey would give you a broad picture to say, all right, we have the ABC ones, or, that kind of a thing. Sometimes that's not necessarily where your specific groups of consumers are hanging out. So again, you can check the media houses to see if, anyone would have a copy. I'm not sure if I think it was Donna Anderson who used to do the all media survey. I'm not sure if there are any available now. Sometimes when I worked in media, I find that they used to come like 6 months after. And for me, that would not necessarily be very relevant because the market is changing so fast these days. And so you can't wait 6 months to make a decision when you need to make a decision now. So it's kind of a tricky sitting down and waiting on an all media survey to make a decision. Again, you have to find other means and ways of accessing from your consumers. Sometimes, if we talk to our consumers, we'll get the response from them, but sometimes we are not talking to them and engaging with them, so to speak. Sometimes they'll tell us where exactly, they have learned of our products and so on. And sometimes we want to capitalize on those.
We're actually running out of time. Yes, we're running out of time. So I just wanted to say to the two persons in the chat, Elise and Monifa, thank you for your commendations. Maria, they said good presentation, great presentation. It will definitely be available on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out some point later on this evening or tomorrow. By tomorrow afternoon, it should be up. Just to look back at some of the points that were made, Maria indicated that we are operating in a brutal brand world. So our MSMEs need to bear that in mind, that we are not necessarily in a market space right now that we can relax and take it easy. So we've got to be very strategic. We've got to differentiate ourselves, and we also have to understand that price is not something that you need to compete on, especially in a time when you're trying to sustain a small business. And then you must narrow your focus, concentrate your resources in areas that you can win in. You cannot be all things to all people, because everybody can never. We have 7 billion people in the world. Imagine if everybody was your customer. You could have never fulfilled it. So I'm going to hand back to Mario. He has a closing slide to share with you, and then I'll come back and tell you how you can make contact with us once we're off today. Thank you. Go ahead, Mario.
All right, so just some final thoughts. Number one, think about marketing and brand building in the new business environment from an integrated and holistic 360-degree perspective. So it is encircling the consumer. Think of marketing from a 360-degree perspective. Everything communicates. Every single thing communicates. If you've been asked to go, and represent your brand, how you present yourself, that kind of a thing, say something about your brand. Deliver meaningful, differential value. So important in today's marketplace. Again, every single brand contact matters. Every single one. The packaging, how you place the product on the shelf in the store, and so on. Every single brand contact matters. modern marketing is not about discarding traditional tools. Sometimes, I mean, we want to give up one and just go straight into the other. It is not so. It is about combining what's good about the old with workable elements of the new. So it is not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. Always adopt a performance and marketing accountability mindset. And finally, just do it. There is greatness in you, so just go out there and do it. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Mario. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and share with us this morning. I know for certain that you're busy. So I am so grateful to you. And thank you for sharing such wonderful nuggets with us. I hope that our client group was taking notes. And if you weren't taking notes, it's kind of okay, because the recording, as I said, will be available on the JBDC Jamaica YouTube page. Just search for us if you have not yet subscribed, and go ahead and subscribe. The recording will be out by tomorrow afternoon, so you will be able to access it. You can share it with your colleagues and friends and anyone that you know that will find this information useful. Please go ahead and share it with them. We also have a session at 1 o'clock today. So for persons who have already registered for that session, thank you very much. The registration for that closes at 12:30. So if you are interested, you can log on to our Zoom platform and register for the 1 o'clock session. Again, we are still reachable by phone. 876-928-5161-5 is our head office number. If you need to speak to somebody at our incubator and resource center, that number is 876-758-3966, and it goes up to 8. Our website is www.jbdc.net. We are available on all social platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As you know, our employee engagement seminar comes up on October 8, 15, 22nd, and 29. So if you are interested in that, just search for that on our social media pages, or you can also visit our website, get the details as to how to register. Thank you so much for joining us again this morning, and we will see you at 1 o'clock today. Bye.